Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra. Now, the legal battle surrounding the attempted impeachment of Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has entered uncertain territory. A federal high court has adjourned proceedings indefinitely, effectively pausing the governor's challenge against the State House of Assembly and extending an already tense political standoff. Now, this development matters beyond Rivers. It raises serious questions about judicial timelines, political pressures, and how prolonged legal uncertainty affects governance, public service delivery, and also stability in one of Nigeria's most strategic states. So joining us now to have this conversation are Imeabe Oscar, National President of the South-South Youth Initiative, and Osigwe Ahmed Momoh, who's lead counsel at Robson Legal. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me for this conversation this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. It's nice to be with you. It's a pleasure being with you.
Good. Now, Osigwe, I'm going to start with you because over the week we were together. You spoke to me on the news and we didn't have much time, and that's why you were invited. I'd like to know, now that we've gotten here, from a legal standpoint, what does an indefinite adjournment mean in a case of this magnitude?
Thank you very much for having me once more. And the indefinite adjournment, Adjourns in the die, allows parties not to further murky the water, not to unnecessarily overheat the polity, and allow the matters in court to continue. In Rivers State, we've had an avalanche of court cases. It's difficult to keep track of them. Several matters are still pending. More are trying to are just being instituted, and that creates a general atmosphere whereby it's difficult to track what's happening. So the court is saying right now, all parties basically at the trial stage, hold on. At the impeachment stage, also with the CJ's decision, hold on, let us deal with all pending appellate matters, appeal matters before we come back. So it gives warring parties enough time to at least probably allow some diplomatic avenues and political avenues why the courts look at the matters pending before them and attend to them one after the other. In reality, Rivers State has been a very difficult time for the ordinary people. There's really been zero to no governance there. Of course, the court is fully aware of this. One political upheaval after another, and that's just an unfortunate situation. So I think it's a very responsible thing to do. It's the right step, and we need to, when judiciary is doing things right, and in Rivers State, most times, almost every judgment that's come out, it's difficult to quarrel with any of them. There's been an avalanche of illegalities, if you ask me. The purported notion of wanting to impeach the governor and deputy in the same vein, I think it's odious, it's distasteful, everybody can see for what it is. It is a political move trying to use a legal process, and it should be frowned upon by the court, and I think that's exactly what's happening. Also, let me put this in perspective. Let's not forget that there are genuine questions that are being asked. Genuine questions whether or not these offenses are impeachable. We shouldn't forget that some of the actions, because we are not saying Fubara is the saint, Wike is the demon here. There are questions to be asked genuinely. Some of the actions that led to all of this is questionable. We saw the the legislative complex being brought down. We saw the notion where 4 members also started acting like the representative of the state and doing something as sacred as passing a budget for the entire state, thereby technically depriving the people of Rivers their say, their votes, their decision to have a feel in the electoral process. So it's a difficult process. There are no saints, there are no demons here. The legal process will the court is looking at everything closely, and I'm sure at the end of the day, most Nigerians will be satisfied with the decision of the court.
Well, Osigwe, listening to you, I'm wondering whose side you're on. Because on one hand, you say that it's the right thing to do and you're glad, and then on the other hand, you say there's plenty of questions to be asked. And I do understand what you're saying. But then, does this actually help due process, or is it risking delaying justice? From what you said, that's exactly the question that comes to mind.
No, well, it's because as we speak now, there are several pending matters there, and it's really a political matter. It's not really a legal issue, and I'm sure the court is fully mindful of this. The pending matters have to be dealt with. The questions to be asked have to be asked and fully answered before we come in and start asking for other questions. There's still a question, because the last time the Supreme Court generally said, agreed that the current speaker was there was no evidence. That was really the question. There was no evidence that there was a valid defection. Now, that doesn't mean they ruled that the action or the defection was valid. It just says there was no evidence. And I think another party, Labour Party, also brought a matter challenging this same question. Well, this is the evidence. This guy is actually left, and that has to be answered also. So there are several of these questions that are still pending there. And the concept of, there's the appeal to appeal the interim order that was given to stop this process, this entire impeachment process. There's an appeal on that. And the court, you also have to look at the appeal first before the process can continue. Like we said during the week, that's a brilliant step. That's the right thing to be done. You don't need the appeal to keep going on, telling the CJ to constitute the 7-man panel, whereas there is an order stopping in, and then they're questioning that order and all that. So I think it's
Osigwe, we're having issues with your connection there. I think perhaps if you can check that, or maybe it's...
And you don't. Okay, confirm if you can hear me.
I can hear you now, but I'd like you to pause for a minute so I can ask Imeabe a question here. Imeabe, let's talk about political accountability from a youth perspective now. I'm wondering whether you think that... I'm wondering what message you think this sends when it comes to political accountability, especially in particular the River State as it concerns it.
Thank you very much. I think I've said it in several fora. I'm going to take my view from the youth perspective, from the civil society, and from the moral aspect of it. I have said it in several fora that as we speak, it will be very difficult and very challenging to demand for accountability from the incumbent governor, the executive governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Sir Siminalayi Fubara. It will be very difficult because right from his inception in this very first tenure, it has been political torso upon political torso, where that led to the state of emergency for complete 6 months. Rivers State suffered a lack of democratic values or governance in the state for complete 6 months because of the political torso that was being orchestrated by the FCT Minister, Barrister Imeabe, the former governor of Rivers State. And that brings us so many questions because this same former governor of Rivers State, Barrister Imeabe, when he was the governor, he never gave attention to governance, neither did he give attention to the youth. There was no youth employment in the state. As we speak, we are still working on how Wike can give accountability within the period or the duration he served as a former governor in Rivers State. Now, we also have a question. Why is Wike always synonymous with having issues when he's a minister? This is the same thing that Wike did when he was the supervisory minister of education and the minister of state for education. This same thing Wike did. At that moment, the then governor of Rivers State was Right Honorable Imeabe. Imeabe was also facing impeachment saga from Barrister Wike. And this is what we saw coming. And all of this was what we were expecting Barrister Wike to have actually not done very well. But it's unfortunate that Wike, even as we speak at this point, is always trying the best he can to make sure that Rivers State is not in peace. And that's our worries. Because he tried this during the period of Amechi to impeach Amechi with the 5-man House of Assembly. That didn't work. He went further to do the same thing during the period that now he brought Imeabe Fubara for as governor, and he's doing the same thing. We're asking a question. Why is Wike always looking for people to impeach? And the question again is, if there is any former, or if there was any former governor that actually was supposed to be impeached during his tenure as the governor of Rivers State, it's Barrister Wike. A man that did not pay pension to pensioners, a man that never pay promote civil servants, a man that never embarked on any skill acquisition program, a man that never embarked on scholarship, a man that condemned scholarship, that it was not a good thing for a government in place to sponsor Rivers Youth outside the country for scholarship. Meanwhile, his own son was embarking or was on scholarship by him and Rivers State government. His son just graduated recently from UK as a lawyer. Now, as we speak today, Wike has sponsored all his children abroad for educational purposes. Then you also condemn the people of Rivers State for going abroad for scholarship. Scholarship board that was actually lucrative in the days of Right Honorable
How much better has Fubara done when you put him side by side to Wike? And how have these processes affected his efforts, Imeabe?
As we speak, I think one of those good things we have recorded about His Excellency, the executive governor of Rivers State, Fubara, is that within the period he emerged as governor, he gave adequate attention to governance. Now, I am from Kana local government area in Ogoni, Rivers State. Now, if you go to my local government, especially in Bori, I can vividly tell you in a clear terms that as we speak at this point in time, what happened is very simple. But it's a year from Ezo 1 weekend. They embarked on some projects, in Bori, and those projects that by years from weekend embarked on within the period he was the governor was also abandoned. Those projects was abandoned. As we speak, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Rivers State, has completed those internal road projects in Bori, kind of local government where I come from. In other local government, the governor have also done the same. In the same vein, the governor has promoted all those students, all the youth of Rivers State that was actually due for promotion in the civil service. He has promoted them. The governor has also increased the wages. I am not a civil servant, but then the civil servant has been enjoying within the period the governor emerged as a governor. Going forward, youth are also being faced with some level of attention. The governor is giving attention to youth, even though he has not been able to empower or to employ, do his own personal employment within his tenure due to the political saga that we have in Rivers State. Going forward, the governor has been giving attention to everything, the road construction, most of the abandoned projects, like the Songhai farm in Thai local government. Songhai farm in Thai local government, the governor has also given attention. Unfortunately, yes, some will not have
that's what the governor has done. So how is the impeachment process currently affecting his efforts? Let's get to that bit.
That's the point I'm coming to. These are all what the governor is looking forward to complete. Even the complete road that is ongoing right now, the construction of the road that is ongoing now, the governor was supposed to have completed this project. All of this has been abandoned. Now, the impeachment saga that is going on, led by Martin Zamewule, loyal to years of Wike, we saw all of this coming. Because even when, in 2023, when His Excellency was being nominated by the FCT minister, the former governor of Rivers State, we also saw that is the years of Wike also nominated all the local government chairmen in the 23 local government area. He did not stop at that. When the governor emerged as the governor of Rivers State, Years of Wike was also responsible for all the people that was appointed as cabinet members, known as commissioners. Years of Wike also was the one that set up the in-house election in the Rivers State House of Assembly that brought Martin Zamewule as the Speaker of Rivers State House of Assembly. All of this was orchestrated by Years of Wike. And then at that point, I remember I was among those that went on different media fora saying it that Years of Wike was doing this as a witch hunting to the governor of Rivers State. And this is exactly what is playing out today. All of these are just a process to witch hunt the governor, to make sure the governor do not have any branches, or to make sure the governor does not have the local government chairman, does not have the House of Assembly members, or does not have the commissioner. How can you personally clear the terms that a governor of a state will be given a condition to appoint only 5-man advisors? And this agreement that Years of Wike said, agreement is agreement, that a governor of a state will be limited to just have 5 advisors as a governor, and that a governor of a state will not have the opportunity to appoint his own cabinet members known as commissioner. How then do you actually say that that the state assembly?
Imeabe, just a second. Now, you've said a lot. You've pointed out what the governor has been doing. You've pointed out how the issues have affected his efforts. And you've also noted how the FCT minister has been in the middle of all of this mayhem. But then again, the one people that actually are very important are the people. And we seem to see very little representation by the people. Well, maybe we do see civil society and also organizations like yours, but we don't see the people represent themselves. And I'm wondering exactly why. I'm wondering where the people stand. I'm going to let you stew on that for a second while I ask Osigwe a question, but I'm going to come back to you, and that's what you're going to be answering. Osigwe, I'm wondering what you think regarding the impeachment process. How much of it seems to be driven by law or politics?
It's driven by politics. First of all, I want to predict right now that the entire process will be a nullity. Our constitution does not envisage impeaching a governor and deputy on the same vein. These are two separate, or the deputy. Now, lump-summing them, consolidating them has made the matter, in my very honest and astute position, dead on arrival. So I believe this entire process will go. But of course, I've also said the last time I was saying that Mr. President erred by declaring a state of emergency and suspending the governor like a school prefect or a schoolmaster suspecting a school prefect. But the Supreme Court, didn't side with me, and I think that that's a very unfortunate precedent in Nigeria. That years down we will suffer. But I'm still going to hold to my position, even though the Supreme Court, which is the final law. So of course, when I said earlier that we can largely support and be happy with the decisions of the court, well, we are human. Sometimes things go against us. So I don't think this entire process is legal. I think that this process is outrightly political. But some of the questions, for example, we tend to think that Fubara is a saint, Wike is a devil. I'm not interested. I believe these are one and the same thing. It's 10 and the same pence. These are the same thing. If they didn't have issue, won't be here. These are the same PDP people who I believe have orchestrated an elaborate plot to deprive the river people, Nigerian people, of their rights. Let's not forget the presidential election in the last presidential election in River State. I believe to date that the Labour candidates in that state suffered because of these two people, in my position, in my opinion. So I don't think Fubara is a saint all of a sudden because he's fighting with Wike. No, I think this is the same thing. And I think it was thuggery, pure thuggery, to bring down a state built with taxpayers built complex for political reasons. I'm not going to support that, and I do not think it makes any sense for him to constitute for people to pass the budget of the state. So I am indifferent here. Fubara is not my friend. Wike is not my friend. I do not care about them. I think these are the same politicians who are exploiting the people, and Fubara is playing the victim card in this situation. And I think if he's a victim, I do not care. I do not have any feelings. I don't think these politicians really care about Nigeria. I'm only looking at the legal process. And for the legal process, there are many questions that have to be asked one after the other. Some right, some wrong, but generally speaking, there are questions that I think will fail. But I want to look at it dispassionately.
Yeah.
Whether or not you can...
So yes. You tire me out when you're running around the field like that, because I'm trying to still decide exactly where you stand. But you do make very, very, very important points here. But I'm talking for the people now, and I'm wondering exactly how the people can trust the judicial system itself. Do you think that they can trust it in this process?
Oh, yes, I think so. That's what I'm saying. I think that even though personally, I mentioned that I had thought that the Supreme Court will declare the state of emergency as null and void unconstitutional to the extent with which the president did it. And of course, I was wrong in that opinion. They didn't side with me, and they didn't side with many of us. They sided with the president and his team. And so that does not being the case. If we look at the majority of the judgments that have come in this matter, most of them have aligned with common sense. Most of them have aligned with the law. I think the judges in this matter is doing the right thing. I think we should have confidence. And that is why I'm still saying that because they started this process with the governor and deputy in the same vein, I believe that this matter will be dead on arrival, and there are several other questions that will be asked. But it is important to understand that in an impeachment process, it is typically not impeachable. Appealable. You don't necessarily appeal impeachment because the question will be, does this amount to gross misconduct? That question is not a question for the courts to determine. The Constitution is clear. You don't appeal that. What you are likely going to appeal is the process that led up to this. Okay. And that's what I think Fubara and his team are going to be looking at. They're going to be checking, did they start this right? Did they follow the laws to the T? Did they follow everything to the letter? And when they start asking that question, I think that there are several actions that are falling left, right, and center. But the Constitution is clear. Impeachment as it is not necessarily a legal question, it's a political question. It's left for the House, the panel to decide that this is a gross misconduct. And as soon as they agree it's gross misconduct, you can be impeached if you have the numbers. That's why the number is quite high, 2/3. That's quite a number there.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
A quorum. Thank you very much, Osigwe. Imeabe, let me come back to you. My previous question, representation, the people. Why aren't they representing themselves? Why do we hear less and less of the people and where they stand when it comes to this impeachment between the House and the governor?
When you talk about the people, I wouldn't know which sort of people you're talking about. Is that the assembly member or the normal?
I'm talking about the people of River State, the people that matter. I'm not talking about the assembly. The people seem to be, I said this last week, I said they seem to be docile. We don't hear anything from any representation when it comes to the people. You're here as a youth representative, I know, But the people on the streets are least represented when it comes to this. They're the ones that need the governance, and we don't get to hear how they feel about it. They don't have real representation when it comes to these issues happening all the way up top. Why is that? Are they not concerned, or are they just, despondent about the whole situation since it's taken so long already? I'm sorry that's long.
I think sincerely speaking, I want to say that on the street of Port Harcourt, if you go to the street of Port Harcourt, or if you walk around within the street of Port Harcourt in our local government and our community, you will get the impact or the feedback of the people. It's just simple. What is going on in Rivers State is a very clear case that the people are not comfortable. Yeah, my brother talked about being neutral. Yes, maybe he is actually not a resident of Rivers State. He might be from Rivers State but based in Abuja. But I based in Port Harcourt, a resident of Rivers State, and then based in Port Harcourt, based within the state. So it's obvious that the impact or the negative implication of what is going on right now affects me directly because I reside here in Rivers State, especially in the midst of the economic challenge that we are being faced right now. And then we still have a political challenge when every other state, like Akwa Ibom State, Enugu State, and other states are busy unveiling their airlines. Rivers State is busy having political tours being orchestrated by the former governor of Rivers State, currently the FCT minister. And we also have this assumption that is it that Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is interested in this political tours going on in Rivers State that has not been able to call yes or wicked to order. Because we were thinking, just like my brother said.
Imeabe, let's leave the president for a second. Let's focus on the people. I say this because there seems to be a very big gap between grassroots and the governor. Because if there was a grassroots representation, perhaps we would have heard more from the people themselves. So if there is no grassroots, if there's no true grassroots in Rivers State, then there's already something wrong with the process, and that's what I'm trying to get at here.
Now, that is where I'm coming to, because it's obvious that if actually have been paying attention to the happening in Rivers State, you will always hear when the governor in several forums, in several occasions, the governor has warned that people to stay away, that people should not speak, people should not talk, everybody should remain silent. Have you also observed that recently or from the beginning, the governor has remained silent in the midst of all these challenges, though he has been doing some actions, he has been embarking on some actions in a silent manner. But then the people of Rivers State at the grassroots level has been asked to remain silent and also not to take an action. But I'm also very, very much happy about the decision of the governor for people to remain silent and for people to remain non-violent. Because if you look at it from this perspective, because of the decision of the governor for grassroots support to be reduced, if the governor decides today that, oh yeah, Rivers people, rise up to the realization to this event that is going on. I have said it in several forums that personally, as a national president of the South Side Youth Initiative, that personally, if I come up with my organization, it's very possible for us to stampede the Rivers House Assembly from going about what they are going, because we believe, just like my brother have said, we believe that as we speak right now, what is going on in Rivers State is not a constitutional approach. Rather, it's a political witch hunting. And where is it coming from? Just recently, the FCT minister...
Imeabe.
No, let me inform you.
I need you to summarize because we have to go. We have another conversation. So I need you to summarize real quick, please.
Okay, let me just inform you that the reason for this second phase of the political talks we're having recently is because the FCT minister wants a supplementary budget that will actually accommodate about 15 billion per House of Assembly member loyal to him. According to the FCT minister, this 15 billion naira will be given to the House of Assembly member loyal to him as constituency development project. Meanwhile, this House of Assembly member has been given 350 million naira each. Nothing to talk about. In the various constituency, there's nothing on ground for the 350 million that has been given to them. So the reason for this second phase of the issue is that the FCT minister wants a whooping sum of 400 billion naira as a supplementary budget that will be added to the already existing budget.
That's a very big allegation there, and you've moved us into another topic. And I really want to have that topic, but we do not have time. Imeabe, I'm wondering whether it is possible to have you on the show again tomorrow so that we can talk about this. And if you can substantiate it, that would be appreciated.
I'll be very much available because this is the reason for the second phase of this action. The FCT minister is just interested in river state resources. He's not interested in the welfare of river citizens. And the governor is actually asking the grassroots support to be lying low. This is the reason why it seems that the FCT minister is having his way. Because the governor refused to allow to take action on the streets.
Imeabe, I guess we have a date then tomorrow. And I'm wondering whether Osigwe would like to be the third wheel. Osigwe, would you join us?
Very well, sure. That'll be fine.
Fantastic. We have a segment then. Gentlemen, thank you very much. My apologies, I have to rush you off, but we have to go now. Thank you.
Thank you so
much. Thank you very much. We'll take it with you.